is going on, everyone? We've got a special edition Coaches Podcast today. We got the Team Misfit squad here, Sherb, and guest, kind of full-time employee, first time on the show, Kyle, jumping in on the podcast.
Welcome, dude.
Yeah, welcome. We are currently, as we record this, in the throes of retest week at the affiliate. Really retest week for all of our Misfit followers, but for our affiliate folks specifically, we're in the middle of retest week. Monday was that 5-rep max back squat after one of probably the more rugged back squat cycles we've had.
Yeah, for an affiliate, no doubt.
And things went pretty good, I would say. Do we know what the final, you were here latest last night. Do you remember what the final...
Yeah, with a slight roundup.
Bring it just a little closer. Yeah.
With a slight roundup, we were at 69%.
Nice.
Of our,
nice.
PR rate.
That's our goal percentage every phase, 69%.
630 must have dropped off a little bit. We were at probably like 75 when you wrapped up at
just
5.
south of 80 at 5, yeah. But, you know, that'll go. 6:30 is starting to push into the evening. You know, it's time for dinner, bed. You know, that's tough.
Zach probably didn't back. Did he squat?
He did.
I guess he did. Yeah,
he hit
310
for 5.
Oh, boy. Okay. Yeah, wow. A lot of people were, it's wild because a lot of people were within like 5 or 10 pounds of their 5-rep max for 25 reps the week before.
When you laid this program out, I was like, 97 and a half, like doing quick math. That's like 10 pounds less for 25 reps than I did for 5 reps 6 weeks ago. So had me a little nervous, but you know, the 2.5 points at a time ended up being a pretty good progression, and it ended up working out. So that was only about 10 pounds more per week, which made it easier to kind of put into your head and go, all right, I can go a little heavier than last week, a little heavier than last week. Little linear progression always works really nicely.
Yeah, I think what was really helpful was that we started lighter, because when we were templating it out, I was like, okay, where do we want to like try to get people to end at their 5-rep max? I was like, that's really fucking heavy. Like that might be a little bit of a stretch. So I was like, like 2.5%, like that'll make a difference, and backed up from there. But it was also like, because in the real Texas Method program, you're squatting twice a week and you're doing 90% of your 5-rep max for 5 sets of 5. So typically it would start a little bit heavier, but you have that second day per week. But we obviously didn't do exactly that within the affiliate.
I think we accomplished a much more effective version of Texas Method for our affiliate because, again, you only have 5 or 6 touch points a week with an athlete when they come to your gym, and most people don't come 5 or 6 days a week. They come 3 or 4 days. So to sacrifice another day of other things you could do in the gym to just do a 5-rep max, which was really fun yesterday, but I think if people did that twice a week, you know, a 5x5 one day and a 5-rep max the other day, I get a feeling that the eggs wouldn't be all in that basket of a 5-rep max week to week, or they wouldn't be in the 5x5. So either way, that kind of detracts from the overall goal here, which is getting people stronger. Yeah,
for sure. And I think and then just moving through the rest of the week, we just did the Tuesday workout with some split jerks. We saw some folks PRing their split jerk after a whole phase of working on the skill component, not really even getting very heavy, but people were still, you know, because they learned how to move a little bit better. We focused a hell of a lot more on the mechanics than the intensity, you know, from a CrossFit perspective, and people are PRing all over the place.
It's a good lesson for your affiliate members too, that how much your skill determines your strength and something like that, because I don't think we had a day where we exceeded 80% like as prescribed. We gave the opportunity to go heavier than 80% if you wanted
Last
to,
week probably,
but like
that was it.
Most of the change that occurs in your athletes when we're trying to get someone strong in a lift like that happens between like 60 and 75%. So you know, the evidence that people are PRing is people being willing to say, all right, I'm just going to stick to the percentages, try to clean up the way I move. And today was proof that, you know, that method does work in a skill-based lift like the split jerk.
Yeah. Also, like it was like today and then the week before when we did the cardio plus lift. I mean, I PR'd. I mean, I PR'd today, you know, lifetime PR, and it's like, you know, you get
What'd you put up?
265.
Attaboy.
Pushed 265 in front of my face when we did the clean and jerk phase. But taking it out of the rack was a different story today. But you know, I think for sure getting people like real sweaty, breathing hard, you know, then get them to step up to a bar and like maybe think a little less about what they're doing. You know, the skills come through, you know, a little bit more. And I've heard nothing but good things when we've had those workouts, you know, and
just more evidence that, when you go into a class, that sometimes you need to get there a little early and get yourself a little extra sweaty, and what that does for your lifts. This is one of those chances that you can prove to athletes how much that matters, taking those extra time to really warm up. So like I would say, this morning, all of us would agree that the first 10 or 12 minutes were warm up. Like a very long, very deliberate warm up, and what that means. So, for your performance later on, you can kind of take that idea and move it forward into some of your other classes. So I know at Team Misfit, we provide you guys those warm ups, but sometimes you might want to get creative in your class warm up and say, you know what, even though there's an EMOM of squat cleans, we're going to add 4 burpees before each one, just to get people moving through that range of motion and see what happens, because it's clear that when people are really warmed up, things click.
Yeah. Also, I noticed on our squat days, especially when the weight started getting heavier and heavier, people coming in, 5-10 minutes before class. I know it might be a product of, it being like negative 10 degrees outside up here.
Yeah, for
people
real.
coming in and getting warm, but someone grabbing a C2 bike, riding that bike for, 5-10 minutes, getting their heart rate up. So I know at least here at Mr. Gym Portland, we definitely kind of like cultivated that culture, of coming in, doing what you got to do for yourself. Coach's warm-up is going to be good and effective, but, you want to do a little bit more.
It's cool to give a shit. Ready. It really is. And it's cool to see our members double down on that, the idea that if they take a few extra minutes for their own, personal mobility and things they need, they'll do better. And that's, something we try to teach our athletes in class with our warm-ups. The idea with a lot of the warm-ups that we teach and the mobility that we teach is that eventually you're going to find certain things that really work well for you. If that works well for you, double down on that and do that more often, because it's going to help you perform better. So, people doing the glute activation, the psoas activation that, Coach Chris brought to our gym and had people doing, those type of things really make a difference. And when you start to build an arsenal of movements that help you prepare for overhead or for squatting or for pulling, keep doing them. And coaches, if you see an athlete in the corner doing their own thing, commend them and build that culture at your gym, because you're going to keep people injury free. They're going to warm up better and they're going to have more success in their gym. And when they have success in their gym, they're going to talk about you outside the 4 walls of the gym.
Yeah, 100%. That's a good summary. We've still got a couple days left of retest week. So current affiliates out there, make sure you're tagging us on the old Instagram. Hit us up in Discord. And if you're not a current subscriber, maybe you're listening, maybe you're interested, maybe you're a Misfit Athletics follower, want to get your coaches on board with the program that you might follow. We also have that Team Misfit Discord, which is a great place to get like quick responses if there's something you have a question on, or just general shoot the shit. But okay, cool. So we're wrapping up retest week, but today's podcast, the first thing we're going to talk about competing at the affiliate level specifically, and the context for that is going to be the Open. So we've got the Open. When you guys hear this, we'll be at least probably just a few days away from starting. And then we also we're going to talk a little bit about because of our gym specifically, we're setting up some internal teams in an attempt to give people the chance to do team quarterfinals. Understanding that a lot of individuals will potentially qualify for individual quarterfinals, but last year we did not put a team together for that. So we're going to talk to you guys about how we're kind of doing that and why that matters. Because like at the end of the day, yes, we have kind of the Misfit Athletics, the highly competitive side for the individuals, but at the affiliate level, there's a lot of value in occasionally encouraging athletes to compete and take it a little bit more seriously, if for no other reason than to show them what they're capable of. We're not necessarily trying to convince every gym. We're certainly not trying to convince every gym to turn into this competitive, like this hugely competitive kind of, we're only a competitor gym. Like that shit barely exists. That's not what we're trying to propagate. But we can meet in the middle somewhere. That doesn't mean we can't provide any sort of competitive atmosphere. So we're going to chat about that for a little bit, and then we're going to roll into the Open phase and what you as current affiliates, or again, maybe you're a potential affiliate listening in, what are you going to expect over the next 6 weeks? So this will be a 6-week Open phase coming up. But let's jump into the first topic. So we've got, like I said, I'm going to briefly just explain how we are doing this, how we're going about this, because it's actually a little bit confusing, and you guys just kind of interrupt me whenever you want to.
Gladly.
So we've got basically the way that this works is like, one, your affiliate has to be an actual CrossFit affiliate and in good standing. Got it. There is the one leaderboard, which is just all affiliates in good standing. So you don't need to do anything extra. But if your affiliate is on that list, that does not necessarily mean that you are like, if you're in the top 10% of that list, that doesn't mean you automatically move on to quarterfinals. You as the affiliate, a team manager, need to actually go in and create a team. So for us, we've got CrossFit MF Purple is going to be one of our at least 2, maybe 3 teams. And from there, individuals will, once they have registered for the Open as an individual, will need to add themselves to that team's roster. Now, that roster can have as many athletes on it as you want, because keep in mind that the way that team, which is now on the affiliate cup leaderboard of the CrossFit Games website, is now competing against all the other teams. And the athletes who are on that roster have the opportunity to earn points for that team by doing the open workouts. So you've got 30 athletes on a team. Like one week, it's a 1 rep max clean and jerk. Your big dogs can move some weight. The next week, it's 100 bar facing burpees for time. And well, thanks for the clean and jerk points, but we'll
see you later.
We'll do the burpee. Someone else might get us the burpee points, but it's cool because it provides everybody on that team. And this is actually something that we learned when I talked to our athletes about it, because we have athletes who are like, there's no way I'm actually going to be one of the top 2 men or top 2 women, but I'm really interested I would like to be part of something that helps this team go forward. So we've got athletes who are really interested in, like, I know I'm not going to be one of the finalists, but I want to be part of like the pyramid that helps get those athletes to the top.
It's actually an interesting point right there for the gyms that are wondering, we're not competitive, we don't have anybody like that, or maybe you only have 1 or 2 of those folks and you're like, there's no way we're going to field a full team. What you just described is a really interesting part and kind of goes back to the roots of CrossFit, which is the saying by the former CEO is that men will die for points. But the idea here is that when you collectively are working towards something, even if you know you aren't going to be the top dog, you might help propel someone at your gym to reach beyond what you did to try to continually rise the tides of the competitive level at your gym. And you might allow your teammate or your team to qualify based on the fact, nothing else, that I don't want to have a worse score than so-and-so to my left. So I'm going to do my best. And then they see me doing my best. They're going to try to do their best. And that group kind of tugs each other along up the ladder as they get closer and closer to the top there. And one of the really cool parts of the, affiliate cup years ago is that there really weren't like, I think it was 6-person teams, 3 guys, 3 girls. Typically those teams didn't have, the best guy had the best score on every single workout. The best girl had the best score in every single workout. Oftentimes they were shooting for, when it was a 5 open competition, they'd be good for like 2 to 4 of those events with like a wild card being thrown in there. And that is a pretty cool thing. And I think a lot of members would really like to have that point of pride and be like, you know what? I'm definitely not on this team, but I gave the team some points. And now, even though I'm in the stands watching them compete potentially at the next stage, like I'm a little bit of the reason they're there doing this. And again, helps build a really cool environment at your gym, because you might not have athletes who are there this year, but you never know what kind of inspiration that can set someone up for years down the road. Or, maybe you got a CrossFit kid kind of hanging out in the back of the gym, seeing what like Saturday team practice is like. And says, you know what, I'm going to go do that one day. So you never know the power of what you're doing and who's watching and what that can mean for your gym. So now that to me is a really easy alley-oop on why someone would be like, all right, I guess I can care a little bit about that. And, while you don't want to use the open as hey, you're not good enough, get out of here kind of thing, because that's obviously a terrible experience for someone to have. Like, make it about fun and let those athletes who are excited about competing, compete.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just about, building, you can build more community that way,
100%.
in your gym, just, everyone working towards a collective goal. Like we said, like one person can smash a burpee workout, and help propel the team, those top 2 men and top 2 women that eventually come out of it, towards that team quarterfinal, even if that person, isn't going to make it there.
Yeah. Yeah. I think exactly. Like when you don't know, you never know which individual athletes like get where they get their motivation from. They might have that, that one nemesis in class that they're always trying to beat, or they're, there's the back and forth between them. But when it comes to like, hey, if we're both, trying to help the team, then like you said, the odds that they do something outside of what they thought they could actually do, and then when they do that and somebody else sees that, they're just like, well, if they can do it, I can do it, and it just that positive feedback loop keeps coming back. So okay, so we've got a whole bunch of athletes, and we determine that, well, I believe what we have enough athletes who can actually get a team to a semifinal. So we've actually got, like, from our gym, that kind of second farthest goal in mind. So I think we have, if those athletes who are able and interested in, like, dedicating a little bit of extra time to training, they could go to semifinals after the quarterfinals. So we're actually creating multiple teams. And so what you can create as many teams as you want. To my knowledge, each team costs like $20 to register, and then athletes can start filling out the roster. Once an athlete is on that roster, though, they can't move from team to team. So you can't have one team that does really well, and then you're trying to pull athletes from another roster. Yeah, so athletes can only be on one team, and like I said, once they're on that team, they can't switch. So we are creating multiple teams. And the way that we're kind of navigating hey, we've got some athletes who are actually interested and have a legitimate shot at going to semifinals on a team. How do we facilitate that? So we're creating basically at least one roster, that's CrossFit MF Purple, of athletes who are like, hey, if you're signing up for this team, it's either the understanding that you are... Sure, you can try to help propel this team by earning points in maybe an open workout that turns out to be a wheelhouse workout for you. But the people on that roster, there is going to be a little bit of kind of inter-gym competition as far as, like, once, if there's 12 people on that roster, well, we need to whittle that down to 2 men, 2 women, and an alternate for each. And the way that we're doing that is we're going to make those athletes or tell those athletes that if you want to be in contention for a roster spot for the team quarterfinals as one of these competitive athletes, you're going to have to do the individual quarterfinal workouts. And how well you place will determine whether or not, if you're the first two women, numbers 1 and 2, I am going to ask you, hey, do you want to be on the team? Yes or no? No? Okay, next. Okay, no? Okay, next. And just so on until we fill out what will be 3 women, 3 men.
I think that's an interesting point too, because the open itself being only 3 weeks might not give you a full picture. So the reason why you're asking them to participate in the individual quarterfinals isn't solely because last year's individual quarterfinals and team finals were basically the exact same workouts except for run as a relay, but it's also to give you more perspective on how they might shake out when team quarterfinals comes around, and you might decide based upon their individual quarterfinals, you now have enough data to figure out who's kind of the fittest, but you also might help strategize for the team workout, having already gone through these workouts, albeit maybe a little bit heavier, thinking about the power snatch, burpee, box jump over workout last year. It's a little bit lighter for the teams, but you can get a really good idea based upon the tests for the individuals, what's coming up for the team, and that can help better steer your perspective when it comes time to being, all right, we need to put this athlete first and then that athlete second and then this athlete third, so on and so forth. So you're using more than just the open, more than just the individual quarterfinals, kind of using all the data you've collected throughout the year and putting all things together and kind of keep things very black and white when it comes to performance. Because one thing you haven't touched upon yet, which I imagine you're getting to next, is that we have 2 squads, kind of I would like to compete, and then there's more of a, hey, team's fun, and I know typically what happens in the open each year or quarterfinals is I'm typically put it against something that I don't normally do in class and I might PR, but creating almost like a farm system for that high level team with that second tier down being people who really love to train, but maybe just aren't quite at the level where they're in contention, or maybe they don't think they're at the level of contention just yet to compete on a team for quarterfinals. And maybe are just kind of throwing their hat in the ring because they're curious. So I don't know if you want to speak to more of that, but I thought that was a really smart idea because it allows more people to participate without this added additional pressure that we're going to ask for all their weekends and all their free time for the next, 2 months.
Yeah. Again, for the athletes who are these are athletes who are going to qualify for quarterfinals as probably as individuals and therefore likely as a team. The top 10% isn't not to put it down or anything, but like we will have athletes who fairly easily move on from the open to that quarterfinal position. And that's not to say that athletes who like for the open is like, wow, this is pretty tough. Like those folks can still be on the team. And we'll get to that with the kind of intramural team here. But the, for the competitive team, forcing them to do the individual quarterfinals is like, I kind of went back and forth on it, because then it's like, well, now this is like a 7 workout tryout basically, because you've got 3 open workouts. We're like I said, we're not going to necessarily care about how they place in the open. Just like for quarterfinals, it's like you just need to be in the top 10% to get yourself to the quarterfinals, and then I will be more interested to see how they shake out, how they rack and stack against each other after individual quarterfinals. And maybe the biggest reason for that is trying to keep things as objective as possible. And that's an important point, because we've done both. We've had the one where it was like a little bit more subjective. A coach is maybe deciding who gets on the team based on a combination of personality, how hard they're working, all that sort of stuff. And those are important. And that's not to say that wouldn't, if something goes amiss when the team gets selected, then that's not to say that I wouldn't step in, because we want to send the best team, and we also want our members to have fun. Like that's the main thing. We're not trying to create this like hyper competitive like thing that's not fun, but it's also not fun when members or athletes perceive that there's some sort of like subjective, like, oh, that's so-and-so's friend. Like, oh, they really like Coach Hunter really likes Kyle, so he's going to put him on the team, even though he was 4th out of 10 or whatever it is. So the forcing people to do individual quarterfinals is our way of being like, hey, your fitness dictates whether you're on this team. And it kind of sucks that you have to do an additional weekend, but the other part of me is just like, if you want to go to semifinals, you're doing at least 5 to 7 workouts over the course of 3 days. So if you're going to be upset about having to do individual quarterfinals before team quarterfinals, like you're gonna have a hard time convincing me of that. But for us, it's more about being objective and being able to say to a member like, hey, you did great. Like, here are the numbers. Here's how it shook out. I'm proud of you that you did so well, but so-and-so here are just a little bit better this year. And that's not to create this hyper competitive environment. It's to almost do the opposite. It's to be like, nope, this is how the numbers shook out this year. Like, and you know what you need to work on for next year.
Yeah. I mean, I think there is a little bit of that like competitive environment that's okay though too with this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I mean, it is bringing back like that high school tryout feel, you're trying to make the team, and you're going to give your best, which is then going to, push the guy next to you to also give their best. So then, we are going to come out with the best 3 men in our gym and best 3 women in our gym, objectively by their scores, because of that competitive environment that we're building.
And one low key thing that's going to happen here for you affiliate owners out there and coaches and anybody who works on a staff at a gym that might be putting together a team for quarterfinals and hopefully semifinals is that it's going to force you to be a better coach. Like, you are going to get thrown things that are outside your normal coaching capacity that you don't see in affiliate class often. A great example is the pistol rope climb GHD sit-up workout. How are you going to strategize around a workout like that when you have athletes like last year for us, we had them signing additional waivers being like, hey, when's the last time you did 100 GHDs? Never got it. Okay, let's sign this waiver. Make sure you understand how this workout's going to go. But again, not only does it add a level of like, oh shit, we're here doing something, but it gives a coach the opportunity to have a circumstance they don't normally get to coach in. You might be very good at coaching the 21-15 nines and the 20-minute AMRAPs, kind of your very safe, controlled workouts that we try to make sure are logistically feasible for your class, which is something we consider when we write our programming. But all right, now how do you coach when there is a monkey wrench thrown in there? Like, you have 2 GHDs and 25 qualified athletes looking to do this workout. How are you going to run that? So a low-key part of this too is trying to grow you as coaches, managing the athlete, ego and their ability to process a workout, having those connections and those conversations, which again, just will make you a better coach. So if you're like, hey, I'm on the fence, I don't really have enough people that are interested in this. Maybe they'll, they qualified in literally the 10th percent of the top 10%, and that's not worth my time. I'm going to tell you it is. I think you should double down on the opportunity to coach athletes in a way that's a little bit outside your normal, open or, everyday class, but give them thoughts and perspective. And again, develop yourself as coaches, not just develop a fun atmosphere for athletes.
Yeah. 100%. So, okay, so that's like kind of the competitive side. So, and then what we do is after those individual quarterfinals, they, compare athletes to each other. It's like, okay, top 3 men, top 3 women. And then we're basically going to say, hey, like there's about 4 or 5 weekends between team quarterfinals and semifinals. And again, this obviously only means something if that team qualifies, and it's going to be like, hey, on Saturday or once a week, we want to try to get everybody together because we want to make sure everybody knows how to use the worm, which we're fortunate enough to have at at our gym, but there's certainly ways to work around that. We need to figure out who's the, when it's a synchro movement, who should be in charge, all of those things. We talk a lot about that on some different podcasts, and we'll probably come back with some more info on that later. But that's kind of how we're doing like the competitive side to make it a little bit fair. On the intramural side, so we're also going to build out some team, like a team. CrossFit MF Black, for example, will likely be the team name of kind of one of our more intramural teams. And that's like, hey, I can do the open. I can maybe I can maybe do the top 10%. I can usually do most of the open workouts as prescribed. And I think it might be fun to have 3 other friends to throw down on the team quarterfinals weekend without any, the only requirement there is like that, hey, you were just in the top 3 men, top 3 women, or 2 and 2 at the end of the open. And it's like, hey, congrats, you get to compete and see how much fun doing the team quarterfinals workouts are with 3 other people. And we're going to build that. Well, depending on how much interest we have, maybe we do 2 or 1, 2, or maybe even 3 kind of intramural teams. That way, more athletes have a chance to compete, because if, the fewer athletes are on each roster, that means the fewer athletes who can contribute to keeping that team in the top 10%. So there's a little bit of kind of gamesmanship there from the coaching perspective, making sure that you're not spreading your teams too thin, especially if they are like, yeah, that would be cool to qualify for the team quarterfinals. But in general, we're going to create a bunch of teams, dedicate one as kind of the competitive team, dedicate others as more intramural teams. But again, with the focus being, or the goal being like, get members having fun, get them working out. We don't do team of 4 workouts all that often, but get them actually competing. And what more so, the sneaky reason is just like, you're going to do a lot better because you're working out for someone else. You're putting your pedal to the metal. You're doing the best you can for someone else, which anybody who's ever done a CrossFit workout knows there's a big difference between, yeah, I tried the best that I could, and like, fuck, I'm going to let my team down if I don't really do the best that I can. There is a difference.
There's also probably a good sect of athletes at each one of your affiliates that maybe doesn't believe in themselves just yet enough, and sort of tries in the open.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Barely squeaks in, and then gets to quarterfinals, and they decide they're going to be on the intramural team, and they find that when you guys start competing on these Saturday like team practice sessions, that they fucking love it. That they didn't think they enjoyed the sport of fitness as much as they did, but now that you put them on a team and they have more than just themselves to think about, they really double down on it. Maybe brings them back to like the high school sports type of part of their life, or college sports part of their life, where they're like, it was fun to be on a team. So this is also an opportunity for someone like that to get a taste of what it's like with a low pressure situation. So they're excited about, all right, this is how I did. Maybe next year I'll try to commit more time and see what I'm actually capable of. So I find that to be a really easy way to convince someone to do this. Like, there's no pressure when it comes to you're not going to be on the competitive team, but you might want to just see how you perform and how you like it. It's a good chance you might grab a few more athletes, and that small 1 or 2 people that you grab might eventually bring their friends in, and next thing you know, this team thing becomes more than like, who are the 8 people at our gym who wants to do this, and instead of like, how are we going to weed through these 40 people that want to do it, and you have a different problem on your hands. But I would argue in that situation, you're better set up, because if people are that excited about competing, they probably love CrossFit, which means they're telling people about it, which is going to help grow your gym regardless. Another great reason for that too is that when it comes time to compete and do team training, you're going to want to hopefully have more than one team, because if the team is just competing against themselves, they're not going to push themselves to the level they could otherwise. So what's really nice about having, I think I saw like 16 or 18 athletes on the board, is that we can field 4 or 5 4-person teams that can all now race against one another. And while you're watching them perform, you're going to also watch how they interact, and you might learn something about 2 people who you thought were very, very even, but one has a clear advantage in like leadership, and that's who you decide to go with. Because again, you want to keep this very objective so it's fair, but you might learn a little bit more about people as they interact in a bigger group setting. Who is the better team athlete in this regard when 2 athletes are very, very close?
Yeah. I think the bottom line is that the idea here is you're giving, I talked a little bit about this, I think, when we were talking about why affiliates benefit from the games. And that's a really big leap from CrossFit game, all the way, with the pinnacle of athleticism in the sport of CrossFit down to the affiliate level, who's, comprised of the average Joe. But when the CrossFit game says, hey, this is now the new standard of what we can ask of our highest level athletes, that has a trickle down effect to every level of CrossFit. And by the time it gets down to the affiliate, like that just maybe it may be just something small that's a little bit more amplified. Like I referenced Atalanta, which obviously is like, well, way outside the scope of what we need affiliate athletes doing, but it was like, hey, this is possible by the fittest. So how much longer is it until, maybe like one affiliate athlete can do like a half Atalanta, and then 2 of them. And maybe it never happens, but the point is that trickle down effect raises what all athletes think is possible. And even if it's just those competitive athletes at first who are the ones who are like, yeah, I'll try something like that. It doesn't take long before that trickles down even further to what you thought were kind of the average Joes. And all of a sudden they're like, what am I capable of? What actually can I do if I have the right atmosphere and the right people around me, and maybe it's the right teammates like in the open or something like that.
2007, let's go a little history lesson. 2007, like roughly 15 years ago, how many people could do Murph as prescribed in the world?
Depends on what you define as an air squat.
Well, I'm just saying here, like that workout a dozen years ago was mind-blowing that anyone could even complete that inside of one single day. And now we send our grandmothers out there to do them on Memorial Day every single year, knowing that they're going to be doing a slightly reduced version, but like are doing the essence of what that workout is. And that's exactly my point here is now every year on Memorial Day, tens of thousands of people do Murph. And if you had asked someone to do that, again, 15 years ago, you aren't asking, your average gym member, do you want to do this workout? It's like, you are the fittest person. You're probably the only person that's appropriate for. So these things do take time, but the trickle down thing is a real effect. And, back in the day, an affiliate member snatching like 135, squat snatching 135 was mind blowing. And now it's like, how many people at your gym can snatch 200 pounds is the gentleman there. And the ladies, same idea now. The competitive sport, 2009, 115 pounds was winning the snatch ladder at the CrossFit Games. And now it's 215 pounds. So just lets you see kind of how the sport evolves. And again, a big reason why this competitive nature is important to a gym is it helps you kind of set the expectations for future generations, as well as like, all right, if that's where the sport is going, how do we set the breadcrumbs on the trail so we get closer and closer? So it's not just a smack in the face one day that, oh, this is what we have to do now. No, we progress over time to that, highest pinnacle that the sport asks of us.
Yeah. I think the last thing I'll say on the topic is just that I'll say 2 more things. One, I would say it's also the best way if you have athletes who are quote unquote competitors at your gym. And I don't say that is like in an insulting way, but if they're athletes who are like, yeah, I want to compete, like encourage them to do the team stuff, because we know that statistically, like if you've got athletes who are reasonably competitive doing the most of the workouts from at least our programming as prescribed, they will likely qualify for the individual quarterfinals. it is unlikely that they will qualify for semifinals as an individual. And that might be a hard conversation to have, or a hard pill to swallow. And I've gotten more comfortable saying that over the last few years, just because there are so many athletes who are, it's just a lot fucking harder than it used to be. It is not, you are not going to find an affiliate athlete who stumbles their way onto a semifinals floor. So if you have athletes who are interested in that competition, like, they need as much exposure to that as possible. Like, so encourage them, do a team, and maybe your team does qualify for semifinals, and then you're on that that athlete is on that semifinals floor, and all of a sudden they can see what it takes and what it looks like to actually, maybe they're closer than they thought they were, or maybe it's a wake up call that's like, holy shit, like, this is going to be a long road if this is what I want to do. And that's not to discourage them. That's that's just to get somebody closer to realizing what they need to do to achieve their goals, whatever that is.
Set the expectation of what it's going to take there. And, while you were saying that, I was just thinking back to the traditional, like, regional standard of, like, I think there were like 7 North American regionals at one point. They each invited 40 people, so it's 280 people. Semifinals are 120 total in the United States. Like, there are not a lot of spots there. So again, not to discourage anybody, say if you have the dreams of going there, keep doing it. Like, it might be a longer journey than you think you're set up for, but it is much more difficult nowadays to qualify as an individual. But one of the most cool things that I've ever seen any gym be a part of is the old school regionals, where, like, your entire gym comes down, you wear your gym colors, and they're in the stands cheering their heads off, and having kind of like their local superheroes throw down on the floor there. That is such a great event and such a cool way to help build a tighter community. So, and if you're on the fence of whether or not you should do this, if it's going to do a bit of extra work, I'm going to tell you should do it, because you're going to have more fun and you're going to build a tighter community, which at the end of the day is what these little gyms are all about, is building a community of people who enjoy being around one another, who enjoy working out together because they see the benefits and they tell their friends about it, which helps your small business and helps them be healthier and happier human beings. So to me, it's a win-win all around.
Yeah. Cool. Any final thoughts on that topic?
Yeah, I was just saying, I mean, definitely, get involved, because, what we may not, hear from people, but, like, it's definitely in there, is that people like to push themselves. I mean, people don't join a CrossFit gym to not push themselves. So definitely put it out there and give people the opportunity and push them to, do an intramural team if they're not, overly competitive.
Yeah. And get coaches get involved too. Like, if we get a lot of inquiries about, like, improving, like, hey, can we come up there and shadow, like, come up and hang out for a week and, like, watch how you guys do things, or can we how do I get more involved in, like, coaching competitively, and, like, the open, like, this is it. This is the one that, this isn't it's not like football, where you can, like, learn, coach Pop Warner football and then coach middle school and high school and, like, work your way up the rungs until you're as an NFL coach. Like, that the sport doesn't have that kind of depth just yet as far as that goes. So if you want to get involved in coaching, this is your next best opportunity, right? Until an athlete going to, like, a semifinal, or, like, a kind of off season competition of some sort. Like, this is the best chance that you can get as a coach to get reps in, as far as, like, learning how to coach.
Experience is the best teacher. It really is. Experience is the best teacher. I mean, we all started the same way at our gym, coaching small group, then group class, then beginners classes, then specialty classes, then individual athletes. Like, it's just earning your stripes just takes time, and the willingness to be like, all right, I'll try to figure this out. And I may not be where I want to be right now, but every time I go back and I have an opportunity to watch a workout, give an athlete feedback, I'm getting a little bit better and a little bit better. And before you know it, you do have all the tools you need to coach a high-level athlete. You just need to believe in yourself, which I would argue is probably the biggest reason why people are, like, on the fence with coaching competitors. They don't believe in themselves to give that information. But, through your reps and through your experience, you are earning the right to be able to give athletes your perspective. And the coach-athlete relationship is a, tricky beast at first. But if you find that you really want to help people, you're going to be a good coach. I mean, that's really all it takes in my mind, is the willingness and the desire to want to help someone else do better in whatever they're after. So I think we're kind of ready to move on to the phase highlights, because we got a fun one coming up.
Agreed. Yeah. So we are entering the open phase, and that's just what we're calling this this next 6-week block. So again, for those of you maybe unfamiliar with the programming, typically we have like a test week followed by 5 weeks of training and then a retest week. So a 7-week phase is pretty typical. Now that we're kind of in the competitive season, and we're also thinking all the way ahead to how the timing of the calendar year works out to like next year, this phase is going to be 6 weeks long. It's going to end, correct me if I'm wrong, Sherb, it'll end after the individual quarterfinal weekend.
Interim week.
And then week 1 of baseline 1, our first off-season training phase, will be the week of that team quarterfinals. So, and I'll save us all a little bit of time going through kind of, normally we talk about the lifting, the skill, the gymnastics, the in WOD lifting focus, all of that stuff, because it's all pretty simple. During the open, it all rotates. And what that means is that so there won't be a test portion for this coming phase. The first week is the week of 22.1. So, hey, your test is coming up on Friday. Here, enjoy. Your test is coming up on Friday. And then obviously we've got those 3 weeks of the open, the quarterfinals if you're choosing to participate. And then in the final week of the phase, we do have a couple of tests that are meant to prepare you for the phase after the open phase. So, you sure? You want to talk us through a little bit of like the
like nuts and bolts.
Yeah, like the nuts and bolts, or why like the rotation, why we kind of do the rotational thing at this point in the year.
Oftentimes,
what it means.
Yeah, oftentimes around this part of the year, people will be like, how did you know that, thrusters and pull-ups are coming up in the open again?
What?
It's like, there are certain patterns that you see.
I looked into my crystal ball.
Yeah, I have my magic 8-ball on my desk. But no, historically, there are a lot of patterns this time of year when it comes to like the tests they're going to have in terms of the movements we'll see and, the time domains we're looking for. But one thing that's often thrown our way is we can't necessarily guess which lift they're going to pick. Historically, it's been either a clean and jerk or a clean or a snatch, but it's also been a 4 rep max front squat, and at some point it'll be a shouldered overhead or a barbell complex. So a big thing we want to make sure an athlete doesn't have the in the back of their mind thinking like, I haven't snatched heavy in so friggin' long, and now the open's asking me to do a 1 rep max snatch at the end of a 12-minute workout. Like, how am I going to do that? So a big part of this time of year is just making sure that we've built skills and capacities and so many different things throughout the entire season. And, while we might shift gears and go from toes to bar one phase to muscle ups the next phase, we want to continually come back to them this time of year just to touch upon them. You've had a chance to hit your muscle ups again, or hit a heavy back squat, or pull from the floor really heavy, just so you have some confidence, some context for like what type of adaptation you occurred early in the year still remains residual now at this point. And, because we're constantly pursuing fitter, people might think that they're hundreds of pounds away from their best or 50 pounds away from their best, when oftentimes when they continue to be consistent in the gym, they are within 5% of their all-time numbers at any given point. And this is basically an opportunity for them to prove to themselves that they've all that skill and strength they developed throughout the year. You did your back squat phase 2 months ago. You didn't lose all your strength. And here's evidence through the programming that you have an opportunity to start at 60% and build. And, most people build very close to what their old maxes are. So again, opportunity for you to check in just to make sure that you haven't done something and then feel like it's been 6 months since you did it last. Just an opportunity to check in with things, to make sure you have, all of that in the forefront of your mind, so that when it comes time to call upon it in a test, you're ready for it.
Yeah. So to put a little bit of put a maybe more concrete concept here to it. Week 1 on that Monday, the high CNS lift is a clean and jerk, which will be actually mixed into a workout. That's another thing. Not all of our high CNS days are going to be just standalone lifting days. Sometimes they'll be built in with a workout. Sometimes they'll have a workout after. So there's a little bit more variance that goes into this time of year. And then, so that's week 1. Week 2, the high CNS is a heavy deadlift, and it's outside of the workout. So we basically take our big lifts, we rotate them each week, so that athletes are doing something heavy once a week. When it comes to the skill lift, we're rotating the various lifts to make sure that, just because the last time we snatched heavy was 2 months ago, athletes haven't forgotten how to move really well. We just finished up a back squat phase. The athletes are pretty strong. We just need to remind folks how to move, because there are so many lifts that we do in CrossFit. So, We've got that rotating as well. The gymnastics, let's hit on this for just a second. So we've got gymnastics that are also rotating with a different focus every week, but we've moved a lot of them to kind of standalone pieces rather than mixing the gymnastics into the workouts. Basically a chance for athletes to practice those gymnastics outside of the outside of intensity. And then the workout that follows is usually like low skill, like you just got to work. So I'm pretty excited. I'm excited to see how this kind of the gymnastic stuff works out for folks, especially when it's not going to impede anybody in like the conditioning work itself, because we're separating the two.
Yeah, the way I like to think of gymnastics at the affiliate level is like bare bones. Step one is establish the ability to do said movement. Get your first muscle up, get your first handstand push up. Once you get your first, it's how do we link them? How do we get to sets of 2 to 5 to 10, depending on the movement? And then after that, let's start sprinkling a little bit of high heart rate. Or let's introduce some muscular fatigue in a very similar like pattern. So like, not that I would do this very often, but like, let's say someone want to get better at toes to bar, make them do 5 V-ups, and then kick up on the, get up on the pull-up bar and do a set of toes to bar to see how their body responds. And can they call upon all the skill they built early on? Once they start to have a little bit of light interference, we start to dial up that interference more and more and more to the point where you might be doing a bike sprint in a max set of toes to bar. And then once that's kind of accomplished, can we put these things into a Metcon where the goal is to be able to go round and around and let's say 10 toes to bar come up? You've built such a great capacity and such a great skill in there that it doesn't matter that if you're doing 10 rounds or 40 rounds, you can always just kick back up on the pull-up bar and do your next set of 5, do your next set of 5, next set of 5. So, this is just a kind of a gentle progression, or how I think of layering a gymnastic skill and building capacity from like getting your first one to, if the workout calls for 10 toes to bar through 10 rounds, I'm good to go. So this time of year is an opportunity for an athlete to see what their true capacity is, because our sport doesn't test things when you're fresh. They test them when you're tired. So just another opportunity for athletes to kind of get an idea of what that feels like when it comes time to do a skill under fatigue.
Another thing from the coaching perspective, and we talked about kind of like building your reps up and, coaching higher level, athletes. We have, from our gym, we have people that, say it's a bar muscle up skill day. We have people that, can't do a strict pull up, from all the way to people that are pulling off like 15 plus bar muscle ups in a row. So it gives you an opportunity as a coach to be like, how are you going to move the needle for, you got your one person who can't even do a strict pull ups, got bands out and everything, to, your bar muscle up, gymnast, so being able to bridge that gap and make sure everyone gets that good experience in class and moves the needle in some way. It's a good opportunity there.
100%.
Cool. So another feature of the phase, basically everything rotates. So again, there's no test retest necessarily. The last week of the phase does have like a couple of lifting tests that will lead us into the next phase. But a couple other cool features of this coming phase, again, starting I guess probably today when you guys get this,
now.
Or Monday, what date? The 21st.
21st.
We've put some Maffetone stuff in for the competitor extra on Thursdays. So what would normally be a quote flush day or a flow day where it's like 20 minutes of super low intensity, just general range of motion, just kind of get folks sweaty, recover from the first 3 days of the week, getting them ready for the back half of the week. We have programmed in the Maffetone test. And if you've heard us talk about it on the Misfit Athletics side, it's been going super well. I know that you and I were doing it for a while. You've been doing it more recently for a little while. Yep. What's been your experience with it? What machines have you used, and what's been your experience with it?
So I haven't dabbled with it as much as consistently, I think, as like you guys have.
Yeah.
But I started off with the C2 bike.
Yeah.
Did that for like four weeks in a row or so after doing the test. My experience there was definitely, following the prescribed warm up that I believe that we're putting in there, the 15 minutes of gradual, like building that heart rate, definitely is required.
Sure.
Just hopping on it and trying to spend the first like 10 minutes getting your heart rate to where it needs to be just doesn't do the work, doesn't do it. Mm-hmm. But definitely felt like that leg pump death you feel in like a workout with like a lot of box jumps or squats. Definitely felt my in Metcons like that after doing all these long 45-minute bike pieces, not being as bad or being able to like push through it more.
Sweet.
Then I also played around with, 45 minutes on the air runner, which wasn't my most fun experience. But
running outside is much more enjoyable than staring at the wall and running for 45.
Right.
So basically I don't want to get super deep into it because we're kind of running low on time here, but if you're interested, especially as a coach, did we do an entire podcast on it, or at least a good chunk of one, pretty good close to an entire podcast on the Maffetone stuff. The exact prescription is in there for the first Thursday. There's like a test associated with it. So, athletes are basically moving through a distance on a machine that they specifically want to get better at, for what ends up being, let's say, 3-mile run, a 6K row, a 6K ski, or a 12K C2 bike. Basically, athletes choose
a little over 20 minutes,
a little over 20 minutes, and they're doing it at a very specific heart rate, and that heart rate is 180 minus your age. So if you're 30 years old, 180 minus 30 is 150, and your athletes are trying to keep their heart rate there. Again, without getting super deep into the weeds, I do want to address, like, you were talking about, like, the leg burn doesn't happen quite as severely. So you're somebody who's super fit, on the more, like, is interested in, like, not necessarily competing. Maybe I haven't really talked too much about that, but like you like performing well. Like you're like, I want to get fitter. Sure. I want to keep getting better. What about, how about 30, what you might be able to correct me on this, like 30 minutes a day, X number of times a week of aerobic activity reduces all-cause mortality by, I don't know, 7,000 or 8,000%.
Like 12,000%, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't remember the numbers on it, but the bottom line is if you can get your, like, not even non-competitive athletes sitting on a machine and looking, getting them comfortable looking at a heart rate, any sort of heart rate monitor does the trick. But getting folks into that aerobic state, which, by the way, like, it's a pretty low intensity effort. It's more boring than anything for people.
Agreed.
They just tell them to plug in some AirPods, some earbuds.
Calm down over there, Grandpa. Go and take a nap.
Put on some behind the neck headphones, and watch a podcast, watch a TV show while you bike for 45 minutes or whatever. But the value of that type of exercise, especially for like older populations or just like people looking to generally get fit, like that can't be understated.
I mean,
like
weight loss for a lot of our members is a number one goal they have when come to your gym. I would argue that probably half your population at any affiliate is like, I'd like to look and feel better, which typically goes with a weight loss goal. So one of the most effective ways to lose weight is to do steady state exercise a couple of days a week. I think as a group here, roughly average about 90 minutes a week, but it can be as little as 30 minutes once a week would go a long ways. And the only thing I was going to add to your Maffetone thing is when you look at the prescriptions based on heart rate, if you have a member that's not really into the heart rate thing, that they don't wear wearables, a really easy way to figure out if they're at the right pace, kind of in their 45 minutes, is if you ask them a question, they'd answer in like a sentence, but they wouldn't want to keep talking to you. You're not like gasping for breath by any means, but like you'd probably give like a 1-sentence answer and want to go back to what you're doing and not being bothered by additional questions. If you're only able to get out like 1 or 2 words, you are going way too hard, slow way down. For a lot of people getting started outside of the talk tests, you should be at paces that feel somewhat recovery-ish, maybe not fully like I'm going to have a 2-hour conversation with someone, but you should not be, huffing and puffing all that hard when you're doing something like this.
Yeah, I think for the record, my like C2 bike pace started in like the 210 neighborhood. Going faster than that just got my heart rate elevated a little bit more than the prescription says. Our recommendation is to have athletes switch the units to wattage. And that's what we like to use. One, because that's kind of what the endurance community uses. So that's cool. We can be like them. But also, like, most athletes have no fucking idea what they're, if they're rowing at a 150 per 500, like, good for you. Do you know what that is in wattage? No, of course you don't. Nobody does. So switch the machine over to wattage. That way athletes don't get trapped looking at a pace that they're like, fuck, like my ego says this is way too slow. But our prescription says that it's perfectly fine. So listen to us, not yourself.
Yeah, fuck that ego.
Okay, let's wrap this up. The last little bit that I want to talk to everybody about is the logistics of kind of the Open. One is the weekly structure. So understanding that the Open announcement is now taking place Thursday at a slightly more feasible time for folks to maybe do it on Thursday if they want to. We are still assuming that most affiliates are going to do the Open workout on Friday, which means Thursday's workout for affiliates is meant to be a primer day. And what that looks like is typically a power snatch or a power clean and jerk as a lift with the intention of getting athletes moving quick and snappy and beautifully at a moderate intensity in like the 70 to 80% range ish, and then are hitting a also equally short, intense Metcon that isn't going to make anybody super sore. And then that's the training day. And by that's it. I mean, that's still a very full hour to get athletes through. But the idea is that we are basically priming athletes to move to be prepared for the Open workout on Friday. So for your competitors, for your competitive athletes or folks who are really taking the Open seriously, we might consider sending them towards like consider taking Wednesday as a rest day, doing the class on Thursday, and then hitting the Open workout on Friday. Obviously, like everybody's members' lives are going to probably dictate that more than their desire to perform in the Open. But that's what we recommend to athletes who do care about the Open and their score. They do it on Friday, and then they have all weekend to retest. The second thing is that once if you are a subscriber, you'll notice that the workout for Friday is just the Open workout. There is like an extra piece. It's usually machine-based extra for folks who are interested in more work on Friday, but we will publish changes to the programming if needed on Thursday or Friday for like Saturday. So let's say Friday is, who would have thought, thrusters and pull-ups.
Get out. And
we decided that we were going to do quadruple Fran on Saturday. We will, good choice by us. We will, great programming, coaches.
We've done triple 84, 60.
Pretty sure we've done
20.
triple Fran.
We have done triple Fran, so don't laugh too loud. Don't laugh too loud. I'll hear you. We will publish through email, publish in SugarWOD, publish on teammisfit.com on the download my program section, probably put it in Discord as well. But basically we will communicate, hey, the workout for Saturday has changed because we don't need you guys duplicating efforts from Friday to Saturday. So for affiliates who are concerned about that, we did the same thing last year. It'll be the same idea where we'll publish not only some like warm-ups and tips to our Instagram and stuff, but if our programming needs to change as a result of the Open workout announcement, we will get that to you before those changes were to take place in your programming.
Yeah, you said what I was going to say, but basically stay tuned at Team Misfit Gyms on Instagram for that. Friday, what changes, how to execute the workout. You good chance all three of us or two of us will be on camera talking about things your athletes should think about or things you should think about setting the things up logistically. The only thing I was going to add is week 6 has your test for the baseline phase 1, which is that 1 rep max deadlift, which is going to get the people going. So whether or not they're excited about the Open, they'll damn be sure excited about week 6 with that 1 rep max deadlift. So, nothing, I don't typically like to give athletes a heads up on what's coming, but you might want to for that day because it's guaranteed to bring the people out.
Also got a nice benchmark on that Friday as well. That'll
Lovely.
Be exciting. I won't tell you what that is, but it's a it's CrossFit benchmark.
You'll like
it. All right, gentlemen, any final thoughts?
I'm excited to see what you all can do. I mean, be sure to keep tagging us at Team Misfit Gyms on Instagram. Slide those questions in Discord. And if you haven't done it yet, it's just been, I think, me, Kyle, and Hunter in there taking your affiliate class channel on Discord. We want to know how you're all doing out there. Make sure you guys put your scores in there too, because again, when it comes time to coaching, you got to lead from the front, which means you shouldn't be giving people stuff to do that you're not going to do yourself. So it's a challenge to you coaches out there. Start putting your scores in there. Start leading from the front.
I like it.
Yeah, I guess all I have to say is if you're not signed up for the Open yet, get yourself signed up. I think you got to the end of that first weekend. So try to get as many of your members signed up as possible. I know some people are like, $20. Why do it? Well, it's only $20. Like, put yourself out there.
Yeah, they're all paying $150 to $250 a month for the membership. So I'm sure they'll be okay. With all due respect.
Start a GoFundMe or something.
Yeah. Okay, cool. That's it. So we got the open phase coming up. Don't forget, join us at Team Misfit Gyms on Instagram. That's where, whether you're an affiliate, whether you're a current follower or not, we're going to provide some of those tips for how to get the most out of your athletes from a coaching perspective throughout the open. Join us in the Discord channel. That right now, the Discord is just for affiliate subscribers, kind of a perk to being a Team Misfit affiliate, and just gives you access to all of us are in there. We're all answering questions. We're all posting our scores in the hashtag Take Affiliate Class channel. But I'm excited. The Open's going to be a good time. It's fortunately, I think for everybody enjoys the 3-week open as opposed to the 5-week. 5-week is just a marathon.
100%.
3-week will be fun, but get your athletes interested in competing, whether it's just for fun, for the team throwdown, or maybe you're doing something special at your own affiliate. But that's it, folks. Again, if you want to join Team Misfit Gyms and our programming, you can head to teammisfit.com, sign up for less than the cost of a membership. We can take care of your entire month of programming. We've had a whole ton of seems like every retest week we go through, we get PRs left, right, and center from gyms. Just super excited about it. We're also in the SugarWOD marketplace. You can head over there, start a free 2-week trial of the affiliate programming. Take a look, make sure it's a good fit for your coaches, for your gym. And like I said, with all of those, with either signing up in either place gets you the perk of joining us on Discord, where we can help answer your kind of those immediate questions. If we screw up something in the programming, or if there's something that's not clear to you, like that's where you can get us as easily as possible. And we're also trying to develop that community of like, hey, how do I help my athlete? Here's a video of them doing a lift. I need your help, fellow coaches, as to how to make this better. And that's going to help everybody be better. So just like in the open, we want our athletes getting better. We here in this room want you coaches getting better. So teammisfit.com or the SugarWOD marketplace to sign up. We'll see you guys out there.